So, you guys know when Pinocchio would lie and his nose would get longer? In real life, when someone's lying, which he actually explained this beautifully, and it made me realize, like, damn, he's true because I've noticed this when I lie, your words get longer. So, the Pinocchio effect is liars use more words than truth tellers, and they use more third person pronouns. Welcome to the Adapt or Die podcast. This podcast explores ideas related to self-growth, finding meaning, and living a more fulfilled lifestyle. It's your host, with the most, Armel Tala.
And it's your host, on the low, Ben Smith. We're two college students on our own path of lifelong learning with the hope that you will join us in our journey. And now, it's time for the next episode of
The Adapt or Die podcast. Welcome back to another episode. You already know what podcast it is. It is 2020 when we're recording this. You guys are probably hearing this in what age, what day, month?
It should be January. I don't know. It's in January. I know that.
Sometime in January.
Probably you're starting school around now.
Hey guys, in the comments below, what are your New Year's resolutions? Ben, what are your New Year's resolution?
I actually don't believe in New Year's resolutions because you can resolve to do anything at any time of year. It doesn't have to be in the first day of the year. But if you have New Year's resolutions, don't let me stop you. But
Ben, what are your what are you focusing on? What I need you to define something you're focusing on this year though.
I got you. This year, I'm really trying to nail down my sleep. I'm actually gonna get an Oura Ring for Christmas. I'm gonna buy it myself. It's like a sleep tracker.
I know.
I'm excited for it. It's gonna be kind of cool.
I'm gonna be honest. That's a terrible goal.
It's not really a goal. I wasn't like prepared for this. You kind of caught me off guard.
Wait, no, time out. Wait. The reason why I'm saying that is because like you already sleep fine. Like you get 8 hours. Like that's me. Like that made me mad because I'm like, bro, you guys want to know what I was averaging? 5.5 hours of sleep.
That's tough.
My goal is to get it up to 7.5. Okay, but I'll tell you guys quickly mine and we'll get rolling. Mine is just to follow my principles. I'm not gonna say them all out here, but it's very long. You guys should come up with your own principles, and we'll probably read Ray Dalio's principles. No, probably we will read Ray Dalio's principles
soon.
Summarize them. We'll probably read every single book on the planet by the time we're done.
We'll have all of them done.
But then my main goals are to every single day meditate, stretch, and journal every morning, and then get my average up to 7.5. So. Comment guys below, New Year's resolution. But more importantly, you guys please like, share, subscribe, check us out. Got a TikTok, got an Instagram. We post some clips on there. We're posting highlights now too as well. So that's awesome. But yeah, please share, like, for anyone that is also a lifelong learner. But enough said, what are we talking about today?
Today, guys, we are on our second episode of influencing others and negotiation tactics, specifically talking about Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. And yeah, we're going to be talking about different tactics going on from episode 1, pretty much.
Yep. And so to begin with, he talks about you want to trigger 2 words, and that's right. And so in a negotiation, I said that weird. In a negotiation, a lot of people think you want to get a yes, but a yes is artificial. And a lot of times a yes can be, hey, just, yeah, whatever, get away from me. Like, yeah, sure. They just answer you a yes. But when someone is telling you that's right, it's more of like, they're like, you said something that they just truly agree with. So getting a that's right is more genuine. And then that's actually what pushes the negotiation forward. And so how you usually want to get that's right is you want to summarize and kind of like label and paraphrase the other person's point of view. So once you guys have gotten to a point where you coming to hashing out an agreement about something, then you summarize that agreement. And so that when they say that's right, in their minds, psychologically telling them like, okay, me and this person are on the same page. We're on the same, same page, same book and everything like that. So we want to move forward. So getting to a that's right, that's what's most important. But when it comes to actually wanting to get the person to do what you want to do, you kind of have to bend their reality.
Yeah, and so Chris Voss, what he talks about is something that we all struggle with. He says, don't compromise. And this is the title of the book, right? Never split the difference. And he says this because a lot of times we struggle with the fact that when we're in a deal, we feel that if we might be taking advantage of someone else, or maybe we don't deserve the entire portion of whatever it is we're trying to get out of the other person in our negotiation. But he talks about we don't need to don't compromise because you think it's quote unquote not right. Okay, and he gives a great analogy about this. He talks about if you were to you're picking shoes for a suit, right? And one pair of shoes is brown and the other is black. Okay, your compromise of putting brown on one shoe and black on the other shoe, it doesn't work out at all, right? It's worse than either option. And so that's kind of his analogy for compromising, in that when you compromise, most of the time, you're actually losing for both parties. And that's one thing he talks about. Now, um, an interesting way to bend someone's reality is through deadlines. And so giving someone a set time, which they have to complete the deal, gives them a sense of urgency. You see this a lot in shopping, where a lot of companies will be like, "You have 24 hours to get this deal done, or else the deal is off the table." Right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to feel that the offer, giving you a sense of urgency, right? So you want to do the deal right now, but you'll agree to terms that you maybe wouldn't agree to otherwise. And a great example he gives us this is Japanese negotiators or Japanese businessmen. What they'll do is if an American flies over to Japan to do business with a company in Japan, the negotiators from the Japanese company will take it the entire week. They'll take them out to dinner, they'll go swimming and see a bunch of stuff. They won't talk negotiation at all for the whole time until the very last day, even the last few hours. And they know the American has to leave soon in a couple hours, and that gives them a sense of urgency. And a lot of times they actually swindle the American into giving them or getting a better deal for the Japanese than they would have otherwise if they had started the deal at the beginning of the week. So that's one way to bend the other side's reality. That was probably the most important, but there are a few other tactics he talks about. I'm just going to mention them. He says, anchor their emotions. When you're in negotiation, most of the time, let the other person go first. That's always a good rule. If you're arguing for a salary raise or something, don't give a specific number. Actually use a range. If you are uncomfortable in the negotiation, pivot to non-monetary terms. If you're talking numbers, make sure to use odd numbers. Even numbers like zeros give a feeling as if they can easily be fluctuated. But if you say, $130,400.37 or four,
very specific.
Yeah, very specific. Sorry, I said that number wrong. People will get the sense that you came to that number concisely, and it holds a lot of weight, right? It can't be moved. And the last thing you can do to bend someone's reality is surprise them with a gift. So these are some things. If you want to read more about this, take up on his book or listen to our discussion. But another thing he talks about is the illusion of control. And so, Mel, how do we give the other side the feeling that they're in control without actually giving up control?
So when you're trying to do this, he calls it calibrated. I always want to say collaborated. Calibrated questions. So it's like, what is actually calibration? Can you explain that? Because I feel like when I think about that, I'm thinking like it's you're like a bullet in a barrel, and like
Yeah, I think of it as like making sure that the sights on your gun align properly with like where the gun will actually shoot. So it's like it's like the alignment between what you think something will happen and like what will actually happen.
Ben, you be hunting?
I've hunted before, maybe.
Yeah, it's that white side of Ben. But to actually create the illusion of control, you're asking calibrated questions, and so this gives your counterpart the idea that they're the one actually coming to the solution, right? So you have a solution in your mind, but what you're doing is you want to kind of guide them to coming to that solution themselves with their own ideas. And this is important because most people won't accept your ideas just straightforward, right? A lot of people take a lot more pride on what's theirs and when they come to a solution, even though that is a solution you already had before. And that's why asking those calibrated questions gives a person the illusion of control, because they're coming to the solution, the idea, those points by themselves, but you're guiding them without them even noticing, right? And so, again, really big, because whenever someone feels like they're in control, you actually have the leverage there. It's all about this illusion. Negotiation is an art of psychology. It's really crazy. But some keys to actually I guess, getting someone to feel like they're in control is you want to use soft words like perhaps, maybe, I think, it seems. And you're using these soft words because, again, you're not really pushing them towards anything, but you're just saying, like, I think, this is a great way for us to go about XYZ. And then they'll go, well, I actually, and then they'll put their input. And so but you don't want to use words like can, is, are, do, does, and especially when you're asking questions, because those, you don't want to ask closed-ended questions. You want questions that are open-ended that can't be explained with little detail. Should be a lot of detail, because the more detail they talk, the more detail they give, the more they'll come to the conclusion themselves. Last is you want to focus on what and how questions, right? So you rarely want to use why, because Ben, if I ever ask you, I was like, why didn't you upload that video, bruh?
Why are you so aggressive, bruh?
Yeah, it's like, but if I was like, hey,
Chill.
what happened on Friday? I thought you were gonna upload it.
Oh, I just got busy. I'll upload it as soon as possible, bro. I got you.
You see, so great. That was funny. We worked that out perfectly. That was in rehearse, guys. But
yeah, we domed that.
But yeah, so using what and how, that comes off less aggressive. That's more neutral. So that's kind of like the two biggest keys: using soft words and focusing on the what and how. But can you give people examples of these type of questions?
Yeah, so a few example questions just to get y'all started are one of his favorite is, how am I supposed to do that? And you make sure you say these questions in a very in a genuine how do I say this? A genuine tone, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't be like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, you know what I mean? It's more of like, how am I supposed to do that? Right. Some more are, what about this is important to you? How can I help to make this better for us? How would you like me to proceed? What is it that brought us into this situation? How can we solve this problem? So one thing you'll notice about these questions is they're open-ended, okay? So they're not closed-ended questions. You can't answer them with a single, you can't answer them with yes or no, or even a person, place, thing, right? It takes some serious thought on how whatever the answer to this question will be executed. And so what it's doing is, if I'm saying, how am I supposed to do that? Well, that makes Mel wonder, well, how is he supposed to do that, right? And then he's brainstorming for me on how he can help me figure out my problems. And then whatever idea he comes up with that, and I don't owe him anything for whatever he just solved my problems for. And it's a great way to get the other side thinking about from your perspective and moving them towards not a compromise, but a solution that works for both of you.
To quickly add on to, and the idea why Ben emphasized not owing them anything is this idea of reciprocity. Am I saying that correctly?
Honestly, I don't know how to say it. I want to say it's reciprocity or
reciprocity.
I don't know. Who knows?
You guys look it up. But it's this idea that whenever someone gives something, they're gonna expect something back, right? But if you can get someone to come to the solution themselves, they did it themselves, and you didn't give them anything. Illusion of control. And this is also big too, because if they don't come to the exact solution you want, you can re-guide them to where you actually want. So that's really huge. But with that being said, though, you can talk all you want. This is actually one of my principles, tying it back to the beginning. Execution is everything, and you want to guarantee execution. So that's his rule 8. And so a yes is nothing without a how. How many times have you asked your parents, or you've asked a friend, like, can you do XYZ, or like, when are we gonna, do you guys want to go on a trip? That's a better example.
Never happens.
Do you guys want to go on a trip? Everyone's like, yeah, of course. What? And then, but somehow, it ended up being on one person to plan it all out, because not everyone can come together to the how. So and how is very important in a negotiation, because a quote he uses is, while an agreement is nice, a contract is better, and while an agreement is nice, a contract is better, and a signed check is best. That is the how. So again, these calibrated questions are going to be the key to everything here, because really all you're doing in a negotiation, like we mentioned in the first episode, is you want to probe information out of someone. And how you do that is by asking good questions. And so you want to keep asking these calibrated questions. And specifically, you want to ask the how, because the how gets you the answers to the how. And so these questions are, how will we know we're on track? Or how will we address things if we find we're off track, right? So you're asking these questions again to make it very clear about what is the plan, how are we going to implement this, how are we going to actually execute to them. And again, big part is you want to guide your counterpart to develop this themselves. illusion of control. We don't want to push it on the person, because if you push it on the person, they're more likely to reject it. And if you are pushing it on a person, right, you're pushing an implementation. The worst thing you can hear is "you're right" or "I'll try." When you hear "you're right," they don't believe what you're saying, right? That's why in the beginning we said "that's right" is better than "you're right," because "that's right" is them saying "I believe that is right." "You're right" is them saying like, "Sure, whatever, cool, you're right." "I'll try." How many times you been like, "Yeah, I'll try, bro. Yeah, whatever, I'll try." Yeah, no. It means I'm gonna just pretend like I did it, but I'm gonna fail. So whenever this happens, you want to dive back, ask those calibrated questions, and you will want to make sure you successfully define what your implementation is going to be. But with that, there's some rules when you're actually talking to the person, or some things to pay attention to.
Yeah, so we're going to give you a couple of ways to analyze situations and help execute the how. So the first rule is called the 70-38-55 rule. And the reason it's called that is because only 7% of your communication comes from what you're actually saying. Okay. 38% comes from the tone of your voice. So how you're speaking, like if you're aggressive, if you're upbeat, if you're lighthearted, sad, angry, whatever. And then 55% is actually your body language. Okay. So just a reminder, only 7% of your communication comes from your actual words. Okay, and this is like peer-reviewed studies. This is not like something someone made up or anything. This has been around for a while. And so the reason this is important is because let's say you are asking someone, do the terms of this agreement sound good? And they pause for a second and they, yes. Well, that's a huge cue, right? They just paused and they said yes, but they didn't really mean yes, right? There was a hesitation there. And so one thing you might want to do is say, oh, I heard you say yes, but it seemed like you were hesitant. There was hesitation in your voice. Let's make sure we get this right. Is there anything you want to tell me or something like that, right? You're trying to uncover those hidden things that your verbal, whatever your actual words are saying, the hidden meaning behind your body language and your tone, right? Those are important things. Another thing is called the rule of three. Okay. And so this is the rule. If you can get your counterpart to agree to something 3 times, it's pretty much a lock they're going to do it. Okay. So the first time is called the commitment. So this is when you get them to agree to something and then, will you do this? And they're like, yes, that's a commitment, right? It's the very first ask. The second time might be something along the lines of you're talking about terms and talking about any disagreements or something that they might have, any issues they might have. If you summarize what they're saying, maybe give them a label that we talked about last episode, and everything you said is good and they agree with, they say, that's right. That's another way. That's them confirming their initial commitment. And then maybe the third question is that we talked about talking about how you're going to execute it, right? So asking them a how or a what question on what specifics need to get done to actually execute on said issue. Okay. So getting those 3 yeses in different forms is going to be pretty much a lock for confirming that someone will do something. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. But Mel, what is the Pinocchio effect?
So you guys know when Pinocchio would lie and his nose would get longer. In real life, when someone's lying, which he actually explained this beautifully, and it made me realize, like, damn, he's true, because I've noticed this when I lie. Your words get longer. So the Pinocchio effect is liars use more words than truth tellers, and they use more third person pronouns. A lot of times you're reusing third person pronouns because you're trying to distance yourself away from the lie. We're actually gonna talk about a book soon, which is super excited for, 12 Rules for Life. And one of the rules is tell the truth, don't lie. And we'll explain even more in depth why you shouldn't lie, like changed my life. Sorry, off topic. But again, whenever you're lying though, you're trying to separate yourself. And so that person, when they're lying, you can tell they're gonna use him, her, it, they, they're not able to do this. My counterpart over there, he's not, fully on board with this. It's like your counterpart's not even on the table, my boy. Let's stop lying. Words, the reason why words become longer is because whenever you're lying, you're trying to fabricate reality, and you're trying to practically get the person to believe something by using complex, making things more complex, right? And so those are things to watch out for when it comes to liars.
And kind of stemming off what Mel said is he calls pay attention to their pronouns. So the more that someone talks about themselves, especially if it's particularly if it's in a team deal or in a company, if they're saying I the whole time, they're actually probably much less important than they appear to be. And conversely, if they're talking about someone else is hindering their decision, they need to go talk to their boss, they need to go talk to their brother, their mother, whatever it is. The more likely it is that they are actually more important in the deal, but they don't want to give the appearance that they have the control, so they can kind of stave off any commitments that they might want to give in the moment, if that makes sense.
Hey, because whenever I'm talking, I'm in my boss man position. I try to be humble, so that's how I know it's true. Now I'm kidding, but chapter 9, rule 9, bargain hard. There's a lot more to this. Like, again, guys, when we're summarizing these books, we're giving you guys the most important information that we think, but definitely go ahead and read them yourselves, because especially this book, this is great for just like, he has a chapter on negotiating salary. I feel like everyone should read that.
Definitely.
Negotiation is just everything you do in life, like we mentioned in the first chapter. But in bargaining hard, he starts off by talking about preparation. And when you're going to go into negotiation, you need to be prepared, obviously, right? And everyone's heard this quote: you don't rise to the when things get hard, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your highest level of preparation. So if you're not prepared in a negotiation, most of the times you're gonna feel like you don't actually know what you're trying to accomplish. The other person is much easier. It's much easier for the other person to take control of you, and it's not the illusion of control. They actually will have control. But when you're preparing as well, you kind of want to see if you can figure out the person you're negotiating with, their style, their negotiation style, right? And there's 3 types. There's the accommodator, the assertive, and the analyst. And sometimes you will be able to find out before, sometimes you'll find out afterwards or during the negotiation. But these are ways for you to identify which person you're talking to. So an accommodator, they focus on building relationships. Their goal is to be on great terms with their counterpart. It's easy to talk to them. They're friendly and they have a pleasant voice. These are some of the traits as well. Sociable. Ben. You can't see Ben's over there thinking he's an accommodator. Hey, Ben's an analyst.
Do my thing. I may or may not be an accommodator.
So, but the traits of an accommodator are: they're sociable, peace-seeking, optimistic, distractible, and poor time management. And that's not you. And another thing is silence. Silence makes them feel like the negotiation is going bad because, again, they're trying to build a relationship. So silence means that maybe you're overthinking things, or they're worried that you might be changing your mind. But to summarize everything is, for an accommodator, time equals improving relationships. Time equals relationship. Assertive. Now, with an assertive, they think time is money. And so they love winning above all. Aggressive communication style. They're not really worried about if y'all are going to interact in the future. They want to be heard. They're bad listeners. They try to take more than they give. And silence is an opportunity for them to talk. These are very straight to the point people. And to summarize it again, time for them equals money. So don't waste their time. Last is an analyst. And with an analyst, they're methodical. They're diligent. They spend a great amount of time preparing. Silence for them is an opportunity to think. They're skeptical, so you want to come with them with clear data. Time equals preparation for them. That is it. And so now, when it comes to the actual negotiation part, though, this one critical piece of information, or multiple pieces of information, can change everything. And that is what Nassim Taleb calls
black swans. So I forget why exactly they call it black swans. I think it's because no one ever thought
they could see a black swan, and
I think
they saw
thought
one.
Yeah, I think no one ever thought black swans existed because swans are white, But then they saw a black swan and they're like, whoa, that's wild. But backing up real quick, so what this idea is really getting at is that there are a few really key pieces of information that we don't know, and a lot of times that's the information that's the most important. That's the information that is the deal breaker or the deal maker, okay? And it's strange because a lot of times even people who, let's say there's, both parts of the negotiation, they have black swans on their side, but they often don't know what the black swan is for the other side, viewing them, right? So they don't know what the black swans are about themselves even. It's strange. But what you need to do is you need to find out what piece of information is going to allow you to flip the negotiation such that you can get at the one thing that is hindering from the deal, or one thing that can really push them over the edge to complete the deal. Okay. And that information is what we would call black swans, or anything that we didn't think existed, but they do exist, and they're really critically important. There are a few techniques for identifying black swans. The first is what he calls working to understand the other side's religion. And basically, this idea is to understand the other person's core beliefs and core value system, and try to get at that, to not get at that in a bad way, but try to create some similarity and understanding, create some empathy in what they're trying to do and accomplish in their deal, and use that to uncover some information that you might have known before. The second thing, kind of going off of that, is the similarity principle. So people are more apt to concede things to people who people they perceive to be similar to them, right? If you can portray yourself and really connect on the big ideas that other people find very important to themselves, they'll find you to be very similar to them, and they'll be more prone to opening up any information that they deem important. One third thing, this is really important. When someone seems irrational or crazy, most of the time they aren't. What's actually happening is they have some information that you don't know about that makes them seem irrational or crazy in your mind, but to them it's perfectly rational. So if someone is doing something that makes zero sense, you're actually just missing information. They're not that crazy. And yeah, just go with that assumption. Of course, there are exceptions, but that's the easiest explanation. The last thing is get FaceTime with your counterpart. Don't rely on email, text, things like that. A lot of times, like we talked about, it is the tone of voice, the body language, those various cues that are not someone's actual words that give you clues as to what they're actually thinking, and that can allow you to open up a better conversation and find information that you would not have found otherwise. So there's some techniques. Honestly, I'm losing my breath at the moment, so Mel, take it from me.
This man is exhausted. I want to say though, when it comes to those black swans or people thinking crazy, it's like I'd be thinking like I'm in my head talking to myself. They're like, "Man, you're crazy." I'm like, "You just don't know. I got that information tied up here." So I guess I will finish with the recap of everything that happened. So to start off with, we have trigger the two words that immediately transform a negotiation, and that's right. So you don't want to hear a yes. You don't want to hear you're right. You want to hear that's right, because that means they agree. Bend their reality. So you want to try to have them. Actually, I'm trying to remember, what is bending your reality. Oh yeah, you don't want to compromise. There's a lot of ways that people can bend your reality. That's through deadlines, and also giving you false sense of like fairness, and a lot of other things as well to mention. Number 7 is create the illusion of control. That is you asking them questions to make them feel like they're the ones actually coming to the answer. Number 8 is guarantee execution. Again, calibrated questions, but this time calibrated questions focus on how things will get done. 9, bargain hard. You want to make sure you come prepared, because when you're bargaining with someone, gotta really know who you're bargaining with. So there's accommodators, there's assertive, there's analysts. Accommodators, time equals relationship. Assertive, time equals money. Analyst, time equals preparation. Number 10, Black Swans. We really got to read a Nassim Taleb book,
We will.
because this man is quoted in every book we read. But a black swan is that information that are unknowns. So there's no known information that you know beforehand. There's known unknowns, ones that you're going to go and asking questions about. And there's unknowns where you're going to be asking questions and probing to try to find this secret information that will give you leverage.
And now it's time for my favorite part of the episode, a quote from Armelicus Melius.
The implication of any well-designed, calibrated question is that you want what the other guy wants, but you need his intelligence to overcome the problem. And this ties in with creating illusions of control, because, again, you want their intelligence. You know what you want. you know what the other person would want because you're going after their needs. So you're using these questions to probe it out of them and to make them believe they're the ones in control. With all that being said, thank you guys for listening. Any last words, Ben? You seem exhausted today.
It's been a long 2 weeks, I'll be honest.
Ben was going crazy.
I was just working extra hard over the break.
Yeah, no, but with all that being said, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys share, like, subscribe. Hope you guys are enjoying these more concise, shorter form videos. Of course, discussions, longer ones coming out. And be prepared because you are about to receive a massive amount of content, about 2 videos a week. And first week, second week gonna be the normal 30 minutes summarizing 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. Let me say that's probably one of the best books I've ever read in my life. And then probably gonna maybe get around 2 to 3 hours of discussion from us.
Yeah, we there's a lot to say about that book. I'll put it that way.
And let me just say, I'm gonna have to reread it twice. But that's enough said. Thank you guys for listening. Till next time, peace.